Hi, this is Mark Sanborn, and I'm in my office in Lone Tree, Colorado, coming to you with a taped message that I had hoped to deliver in person. Regrettably, my travel schedule will not allow me to be there with you, and it would have been a lot more fun to have a chance to spend time and speak to you live and in person. But I want to begin by saying first, congratulations to all of you presidents-elect. Your year as president will be like most things in life, what you make of it, how much you prepare, and how hard you work. And today, I'm going to share 21 ideas with you about how to have a remarkable year as a chapter president. I'd also like to thank Steve Iverson and the Chapter Leadership Committee for asking me to speak with you. I'm flattered that you're interested in my insights on leadership as they relate to NSA, and I'll try to make very good use of the time that we have together today. You will receive each of the 21 points that I'm going to discuss. I'm going to cover a lot of ground quickly, but my goal is to really give you some of the best ideas I've been able to distill over 20 plus years of leadership within NSA. Steve asked me to mention a little bit about my journey, and frankly, I did not have a strategic plan to ever become an NSA board member at the national level or to be NSA president. What I did was practice what Abraham Lincoln famously advised. He said, "I will work and get ready, and someday my chance will come." In the early years of my involvement in NSA, I simply made myself available for what needed to be done. I had a chance many years ago to serve as president of what was called the Liberty Bell Speakers Association, having started out while I was still in college as a member, although obviously not a full-time professional speaker yet, at what is now the Ohio Speakers Forum. And I simply took advantage of opportunities and did the best I could for whatever those opportunities were, whether it was a chapter office or a committee position or a special project. So I know many people are much more strategic about how to rise within the NSA organization, and if you are, I applaud you. But first and foremost, for me, and I hope for you, it's about being of service, about exemplifying that spirit of habit and truly being of service to NSA, and as a result, positively impacting the speaking profession. My time with you today is going to be divided into 3 parts. I'm going to give you 7 ideas for yourself, 7 ideas for your team, and 7 ideas to use with your members. I don't know how long this is going to take because I've never given this presentation before. I just got back from Turkey last night, 26-hour trip, and I had a chance to work on my notes on the airplane, and I had a chance to sleep and to eat and to watch movies and to listen to music and sleep some more and eat some more. You know, those long drawn-out flights where you wonder if you're ever going to get home. But in not necessarily any particular order, I'm going to give you what I think are some ideas that will help you have a remarkable year. And let's start with you. Number 1, limiting your objectives for the year will increase your impact. I think a big mistake is trying to do too much and then accomplishing too little. When I was NSA president at the national level, I had 2 or 3 objectives. My first was to bring more of a focus on expertise as it relates to eloquence, and the second was related to some leadership issues like the NSA slate, which was approved with the help of my friend Scott Friedman, who was NSA president after me. So there were really just 2 or 3 strategic objectives I had. I realized that as I looked at NSA present and past, there were usually 3 categories. The first were the maintainers. They did a good job and represented the organization well, but they didn't necessarily move the ball down the field. The second were what I called the advancers, and that's what I aspired to be, and I'll let the evaluation of history determine if that's true or not. And the third category, it's the least likely category, but every now and again you'll have someone in leadership that actually sets the organization back, and I'm not exactly sure what I would call that category, but it's not a category that anyone wants to be in. So the first question is, what are your 1 or 2, maybe no more than 3, primary objectives for your chapter this year? Number 2, pay attention to the details and the nuances. They will bite you. Little things can really unseat your credibility and your effectiveness as an NSA president. And I think a lot of people play fast and loose with the details. I'm fortunate, at least in one regard, being kind of a left brain analytical. I've always been big on the details, and I think that's helped avoid a lot of catastrophes in my own leadership experience. And related to that is really number 3, and I know this is very tactical, but it's important. Keep really good notes. Write lots of things down so you don't have to remember whether or not you said something or appointed someone or promised something to someone. And I think that number 2 and 3 go together, paying attention to the details and keeping really good notes. Number 4, the more quickly and firmly you say no to something or someone, the better off you'll be. Putting people off is usually a very bad strategy unless you seriously do need time to think or look at your options. And I think sometimes in an effort to please others, we say maybe when we already know the answer is no. It will save you a great deal of grief if you firmly say no to those things that do not fit your vision or values for the year, or to those people who you know won't be able to capably fulfill a spot on your leadership team or in your leadership work. Number 5, make sure that your vocabulary includes the words grace, mercy, and redemption. It will make you a better leader in life. It'll make you a better NSA president. Grace is when you give people favor they don't merit. That's when you do something nice for somebody whether or not they merit that. And you will have an opportunity to extend grace to people this year. And hopefully, first and foremost, on the basis of ability and dedication. But occasionally you need to give people grace and do nice things for people that maybe haven't been that nice to you. Mercy is withholding what people really deserve, and that is maybe somebody that wasn't that nice to you deserved to get blasted or told off, but you know, it affects your position as a leader when you blast someone, and so sometimes you just extend a little mercy even if they probably deserve something a little more direct. And finally, redemption is the ability to take a situation that could be bad, maybe starts out bad, and find some good in it. You know, convert it from negative to positive. Now, I know those are 3 theological terms, but they don't have to be used just in theology. They apply equally in any environment. And so grace, mercy, and redemption will serve you well as an NSA president. Number 6, try to say thank you too much. I don't really know that it's possible. I suppose if it's insincere and gratuitous, people might tire of it, but I rarely observe leaders saying thank you too much. And there's going to be so many people that will help make you successful and help you achieve your goals. Make sure you appreciate them. And finally, number 7, like Peggy Noonan, one of the great writers. She has a column in the Saturday Wall Street Journal. She was a speechwriter for Ronald Reagan, wonderful writer. She says, if you know you are right and you have the conviction of your values, just ignore criticism. Or as they say in the Marines, Fido, forget it, drive on. I think it was maybe Oswald Chambers who said leaders need to have a thick skin and a soft heart. Because if you don't have a thick skin, you're going to be perplexed by the people who find fault. Some of the fault they find is deserved, but nobody's perfect. The reality is, though, a lot of fault finding is based in perception and driven by motives that are not necessarily pure. So if you're committed to what you're doing, you've done your best, and you know you're right, when it comes to criticism, shrug it off and get on with the business of leadership. So those are 7 ideas for you. What about for your team? Well, number 1, have a plan. Have a detailed plan, and make sure everyone on your team not only has a copy of that plan, but they understand and are committed to the plan. That's the key. You can have a plan, but if people don't understand it or they're not committed to it, it's not going to work. You probably will have to sell your plan. You got to remember, and this is related, but it's my second point, that whenever you choose a what to do, you must also choose a who to do it. It's one of the primary reasons why organizations fail. They come up with grandiose plans, but they don't create accountability. They don't get people to commit to fulfilling their respective roles. So whenever you create a what to do in your plan, make sure you have a who to do it as well. That's number 2. Number 3, with your team, get the basics right. Get the basics right when it comes to things like venue and room temperature and audio visual and snacks. They're so obvious, and yet if we don't build on the basics, very innovative ideas can be marred by simple ignorance of those fundamentals. And so operations are key. It's ironic when I've spoken every now and again at an NSA event and the sound hasn't worked or the video was problematic. So make sure you get the basics right. Number 4, reach across the aisle. Partner with other meetings, industry organizations. Now, I know we have many opportunities in place within NSA, but be an innovator in reaching even more people in your community or your state. My friend Scott Friedman, who I alluded to earlier, was masterful and still is masterful at creating those strategic alliances. And we all accomplish a great deal more when we reach across the aisle. Number 5, for your team, monitor carefully the timeline of your plan. Don't just assign the who to the what. Make sure they have a deadline for getting it done, and don't wait until the deadline has passed to make sure that they've discharged their duties. The old management cliche, it's a cliche, but it's true. You've got to inspect what you expect. That will keep you out of trouble and help you get things done. Number 6, when it comes to your team, you don't have to manage by consensus. Don't ask everybody everything. Ask the people whose input you value. Ask the people who have experience or expertise, but avoid this idea that you'll somehow be a great consensus builder by getting every single person's input on every single issue. It's usually a waste of time, and you run the risk of offending people who you've asked gratuitously and who've given you ideas that you didn't accept or integrate into your decision. So ask the right people for input. It can be used to create consensus and support, but more often than not, it's gratuitous when we ask too many people too many questions. And finally, number 7, when it comes to your team and all you plan to achieve in the year you lead together, choose excellent and simple over complex and convoluted. I think sometimes we reach too high, and even though the goal or the aspiration was good, because we've exceeded our grasp, the results are disastrous. We plan some kind of a big event and we don't market it well, and instead of getting 200 people in the room, we have 12 people in the room, and that's demoralizing both in terms of your credibility as well as the time everyone's invested. So I think that simple and excellent is much better than complex and convoluted, much more predictable and attainable. So those are 7 ideas for your team. What about your members? And by the way, I realize there's some overlap between these 21 ideas, but that's fine because I want you to be able to think about your key constituencies. You as a leader, the people on your team who support you, and of course, the people that you serve who are members of your chapter. So here we go, 7 ideas for your members. Number 1, change the question from who are our members to who do we want our members to be. Design your programming around your sweet spot. Too often, chapters get hung up on members that maybe are marginal. They're good people, but they are not advanced in their career, and they pull down or drag down the programming and the professionalism of the chapter. So think about who would be your ideal member and design around him or her, not just the people that you've got. It's more important to target who you want to come to meetings rather than simply playing to who has been coming to meetings. Number 2, this is a big one. It's philosophical, but it's important. Change possession. Change it from your chapter to their chapter. Change it from your meeting to their meeting. People really get engaged when they feel a sense of ownership. And if you put the member in the middle, if you make them the focus, you will always serve well. Just like we tell our corporate clients that they need to be customer-centric. You as an NSA leader in your team need to be member-centric. And I know it's easy to just kind of practically talk about, my year, my theme, my initiatives, and that's fine. There's a need for some of that, but I think sometimes we do too much of it. So make it about them, not about you. Number 3, reverse engineer. That is to say, clarify in your mind at the end of a year what a truly spectacular and extraordinary year will have looked like. And once you're clear on that, then reverse engineer to create it during the year. Don't just do things without any end game in mind. You've got to, if you want to be a visionary leader, have a vision, and then you've got to have people help you achieve it. Otherwise, it's a hallucination, not really a vision. So reverse engineer. Number 4, for your members, engage through involvement. If you've got somebody that's marginal, maybe they're a good member. When I say marginal, they're thinking about not participating or re-upping their dues. That might be a good person to get involved in a committee or to give a special project to. Again, involvement creates engagement. Great engagement creates ownership. So look for the people who have been underutilized. Now I know sometimes people are underutilized because they haven't proven themselves capable. But every now and again it's good to take a risk and get somebody new into the game. So make sure you involve as many people as possible. Number 5, and I talked about this at IMEX when I spoke to the largest collection of meetings industry professionals held here in the United States in Las Vegas a few weeks ago. Make sure you charge for the value you provide. I personally think, and this might be a bit controversial, but hey, sue me. No, don't sue me. I don't want to be sued. I mean that philosophically. I think we undercharge in NSA. I think we worry too much about what we charge people and not enough about what we give people. If you want to have any margins to operate your chapter, you can't operate on a shoestring. And yes, I know the circular argument, if we charge more, people won't come. If people don't come, we won't have any revenue. How about charge more and have fewer people come, but make more money so that you can do better and get more people to come later? I really think we underprice what we do at NSA, at the national level and at the local level. And I've been in many board discussions where that's been discussed. We think we're impinging on people by raising dues $5 when we probably ought to raise them $50, or that we shouldn't charge $15 more for a meeting when we should charge $50 more for a meeting. That's not abundance thinking. That's very limited thinking. And if people get great value, if you give them ideas that are going to improve their business and life, they're not going to begrudge you spending an extra $50 or $100 over the course of the year. Don't spend money that you don't have, but work very hard to make sure that your value proposition is compelling, with the end goal being that you charge more for what you do at the chapter because you provide great value. And that's what I mean when I say number 5, charge for the value you provide. Number 6, don't dismiss the dissonance. Now, the dissonance are the people who complain and have feedback and sometimes bitch and moan. Now, some of them are just complaining, but occasionally embedded in that complaint is a good idea. And if you just dismiss the dissonance out of hand, you'll miss valuable feedback. When I was national NSA president, I listened to some dissidents that I couldn't agree with in totality, but I learned some good things from them. And even though it might have challenged my view of NSA, it gave me a broader view of how others see it. So don't dismiss the dissidents out of hand. Listen to them and find out if they've got some good ideas that'll help you be a better leader. And then finally, number 7. This really transcends just your members. It affects them, but it affects you and your team. Meet and greet. Spend a lot of time in personal contact. At the meetings especially, but by email and by phone secondarily. There's no substitute for personal contact when it comes to building good relationships. And as an NSA president, you're going to be remembered for 2 things and only 2 things. Number 1, you're going to be remembered for what you achieved. But number 2, you're going to be remembered for how you achieved it. Results are important, unequivocally, but relationships are just as important. Build better, deeper relationships. Make people feel valued because they are valued. If there's anything that kills chapter participation or meeting attendance, it's the belief that I don't count, that I'm not part of the inner circle, not part of the clique. You can't control how people think and feel, but you can control what you do to prevent them from thinking and feeling that way. And I believe that meeting and greeting as many members as often as you can at your chapter is key. So, that's 21 ideas as I count them. You'll have a handout that you can refer to in case I spoke too fast. And by the way, I'm not a big believer that watching a video for 30 or 45 or 60 minutes is a real great time, no matter how compelling the presenter or the material is. So I've tried to keep this as brief as possible. The million-dollar question is not whether or not you agreed with what I said or how many notes you took, but what are you going to do with the information? Scott Halford lives here in Denver, Colorado. He too is a good friend. By the way, it dawns on me, I have a lot of friends named Scott. But you probably heard Scott refer to the fact that mostly what we do at meetings is gather. We gather ideas. That learning doesn't happen until we go home and do something with them. So I hope these ideas that you've gathered in the time that we've spent together will be helpful as you learn how to implement them by doing them as consistently and with as much excellence and boldness and passion as you can. And may you have an extraordinary year as an NSA chapter president. Thanks and Godspeed.